Hello, world. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet. I'm very excited today to be joining you again. And I don't see my co host today for the TJ3B Triangle ET Talk Show, Bret Lueder, but I'm hoping he didn't get blown away or something in California, up in Northern California. But we're sending him a new connection right now. So, in the meantime, for all you folks who have been waiting a few weeks, I've been telling you over and over. Jesse Anton Marcel, or Antoine, I think is the way his father said it, and probably his grandfather, because as far as I know, he's number 3. But his name is his brand, and it's his legacy for he and his family. I'm very excited to finally see him in person, and actually his pictures don't do him justice. You're a lot better looking, Jesse Marcel the third, than the first two. No offense to your family.
Well,
how you want to get started, Jesse? I know people need to know. I had it all pulled up. I was going to pull your grandfather up on a film and your dad on a film, but I guess I overloaded all my computers. I had it all worked out. So we're going to have to talk about you. Oh, here comes Bret. Good. Okay. Let me get Bret on here. Well,
all right.
Good, Jesse. Stand by. Let me get, hey, there you are, Bret Lueder from California.
Thank you for your patience, you wonderful people.
Co-host, author. We got the famous Jesse Marcel, but I'm just now getting started. We had a little waylay due to all my cameras for the whole family was going to come on here, but it didn't work out. So, Bret Lueder, you want to introduce yourself real quick, and then we're going to let Jesse actually introduce himself as number 3 by the famous name. But go ahead, Bret.
Okay. Hi, Jesse Marcel Jr. How are you? My name is Bret Lueder, author of the UFO Hunter's Guide. And, when I first got into this stuff, I was like, man, I can't go to Roswell because there's too much work been done. It's going to take me forever to catch up. And here I am all these years later talking to someone from the family. So it's an honor, sir.
Well, thank you. Honor likewise. I don't know. Yeah, just I always like to talk about the subject, of course. My name is Jesse Marcel. It is the third. I typically don't use the third after my name at this point. Fortunately with the passing of my father and grandfather, of course. But I was grew up or indoctrinated into the idea of life in the universe, and part of that is being visited by something out there, and of course that was centered around Roswell. As a very young child, I was made aware of the story through my father. Actually, originally, it was kind of a funny story. We're big sci-fi buffs sitting around watching the original Star Trek back in the '69. It was like in the probably mid '70s. And my dad was looking and says, this is all fictional, but there's actually some truth to this kind of idea anyway. And he proceeded to say, your grandfather had investigated a crash of some kind of a foreign spacecraft, some kind of an alien spacecraft. And of course, well, that's fascinating. And that's kind of how we, I guess, first heard of it. And then after that, it visits my grandfather where they were living down in Houma, Louisiana. I was very lucky that we were able to spend some of our summers down in Houma with him. And he was a fisherman, and there's a bayou that ran behind his house. So we, a lot of summers sat out there and fished in the bayou. And I kind of learned a lot of the story there. So, and just growing up in it, but it was, as the story went, again, growing up in this stuff, it's not something that I sought out. It obviously was part of the family, and it was kind of casual conversation around the dinner table or wherever, and never really thought how the enormity behind the situation was, or behind the story, and just thought it was just something that everybody else talked about. And it was actually more towards, I guess, middle school, early high school, I realized that this actually wasn't such a common thing, and of course, because of how we grew up and where we grew up and in the way we grew up, we always believed what the tale of Roswell, as it was handed down by my grandfather and father. And anyway, it's a very interesting way to live. I definitely had a little bit of a different childhood. My grandfather, an amazing man. My father an absolute brilliant. He was a medical doctor, but he's also a brilliant physicist. I like to tell a story. Is one morning, my dad's banging on their door. I and my brother stayed in the same room downstairs in our house in Montana, and he had these like aprons. He said, "Put these on," and like they're really heavy. And it's like, what's this part of? I think we kind of already knew, but he had built an atom smasher in our basement, and he was worrying about things that could hurt us. So eating breakfast, eating our Cheerios that morning, we wore our lead aprons and that kind of thing. So that's just the way I grew up. It was always a little bit different and fun and interesting and amazing. But I fear I was very lucky to be around such a man as my father, and of course my grandfather. So and Roswell was part of that, of course.
Great. Well, I guess most people know the Jesse Marcel story if they're into ancient aliens and unsolved mysteries and ancient mysteries and History Channel and anything to do with UFOs and anything to do with Roswell or Roswell UFO Museum or the great July 4th great thing they have in Roswell. But folks, Jesse Marcel was the legendary name. And I really wanted to show you just a 2-minute clip, but it is on Roswell Reports. But to show you this, the story goes that Jesse's grandfather, whom I met, by the way, I was from Louisiana and I was carted down there because I was recruited into the military at a very early age. So I got to meet his grandfather through NASA and the United States Navy. So the Navy escorted me down with the men in black at the front of his door. And we had just missed, his grandpa told me, "Well, you just missed Stanton Friedman. Do you know him?" And I looked around the men and I didn't know him. I didn't know anything. I just didn't even know why I was there or who I was talking to. So when I met his grandfather, he was a man sitting at a table. I think he was smoking or either writing. I'm not sure which, but he looked preoccupied when I came in. But I like the story that he told me because I set out to find out who Stanton Friedman was from that day forward. And it changed my life. So I also thought to ask him what he basically thought all those men were there for, because it was quite interesting that I was escorted down there and then taken back to California. So I had a feeling it was about something to do with, if he had something to do with the headband or something to do with any type of apparatus that flew this spacecraft. I really didn't know, but because I was somewhat of a psychic back then and I'd been in these secret little UFO meetings and I was still a teenager. I was very, very young. And by the time that was 75, 76. So I wondered about something they wouldn't tell me why I was there, just so you know. And I didn't really know, but I figured it out as the years went by. Now, I talked to your dad about it later on. And your dad, like you said, being a doctor, ENT kind of guy, right? Ear, nose, throat. Yeah. And then he had his story to tell. And we were actually getting involved because I really wanted to work on some of the reverse technology with other people, I guess one might say. Mm-hmm. So I know that he and I had spent a lot of time talking about the 3 different, the foil that would come back out that looked like foil, and another plastic type of some type of gray dull type of thing, and then also the I-beam, or what he called, I guess, a beam, and then the little markings on it. And that's really, we were going to try to do more, but my husband got very ill. I got sidetracked and got all into this investigation. And then I heard about you later on. I was going to pick back up my ufology in 2007, 6 and 7. So that's when I started contacting you. And then 2012, I went on TJ Morris ET Radio and contacted you then again. And then we talked about you appearing in the Las Vegas area. Mm-hmm. and something to do with, I was with ACE Folklife, and you're going to do something with the Smithsonian. Now, how did somebody get an award, or what happened to your life, Jesse? Because after your grandfather died, it became a big deal with Stanton Friedman, the books they wrote, and then I understand you wrote a book. But why don't you start us back what it was like? Because somehow you got all involved in this UFO business and going on shows, and this is the third generation, but you have a book out. Is it called Alien Crash?
Yep. The publisher called it Alien Crash of Roswell, so it wasn't definitely the first title for it, but they liked it, and it does good, I guess. But yeah, I just as it's going through the family, I called my dad up, and I thought, I kind of want to put together a project and and do some kind of book. Family hadn't read a book, and he ended up by publishing a book, and I ended up by publishing a book. And that was kind of the start of it. I was thinking there's because of the name at that point, more than anything, it was people like funny enough, when I started this idea of going ahead and writing a book about it, it was at a big bankers meeting, and
Wow.
lots of people in, all these meetings, all these outside, insurance sale, whatever, all these people. And somebody a few tables down said, "Hey, Jesse Marcel, that is familiar. Are you related to?" And all of a sudden, everybody is talking about UFOs, and somebody saw this, and that was the end. I mean, they spent probably a lot of money bringing everybody in for this meeting, and everybody talked about UFOs. It was kind of fun. And I was encouraged to this book, and I had this person help me write it, and it actually did fairly well. It's been a while. I'm considering doing an update on it. We'll see what happens with that. The publisher made a deal with me. He said, "I'll publish your book, but I want you to do a documentary with me too." He actually made a lot of movies and documentaries and that kind of thing. And I said, "Sure, that sounds good." And a gentleman, Philip Coppins, was worked with him before, and he said, "Hey, can I get you guys together to do this documentary?" And I was lucky enough to meet Philip Coppins and his wife Kathleen. They came up. I'm up in the Northwest. They came up and met with me. We shot the first, I don't know, several hours of tape anyway, up in the area where I'm at, and got to know him really well. Wonderful gentleman. His wife's a fantastic human being. And it was a fun project. It was unfortunate he passed away before it actually was released. I remember getting a call or talking to him, and he said, "I just don't feel right." Just before Thanksgiving, so something's not right. I don't know what it is. Went to the hospital, and that was it. And it was really unfortunate. So that was kind of the start of it. Before then, alongside my dad, I was at Roswell at one time. I think my sister was there too. And Denise, Discovery Canada wanted to do a short little documentary, and a piece. And I and my dad went over the air base and in a hangar, and they shot some stuff, and that was kind of fun. And it was that point that really people started getting a hold of me. My day job has nothing to do with UFOs or any of this kind of thing, but is more aligned in the area of aerospace engineering and that kind of thing. So I deal a lot in science, and I kind of came known as somebody that you had a reasonable opinion when it came to a crash site somewhere in the world. I'd have people in foreign militaries or governments or whatever would call me, and they would represent themselves and say, "Hey, I was a pilot," or, "Hey, we had something crash. It's all over the place. Can you take a look at it? Do you think does it look like the kind of stuff that your grandfather talked about, your father talked about?" So I kind of became known for that. Not that I have a lot of answers for anybody, but I can tell them, everything I've been told, and see if that compared to their stories. Some fantastic stories. So, some of these Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, some of these places where the pilots and you name it, villagers, whatever, just have these amazing stories. I did a book tour in Brazil once, a while back, and had people were coming in from all over to talk about what they'd seen. We had talked earlier offline about orbs, and I always remember some of the builders always talked about these orbs and how they'd touched down somewhere in a field and then lifted off, and they went investigated some burn marks in the ground and that kind of thing. All the way to there was lots of different stories. it was a very interesting experience, meeting a lot of people, really wonderful people. Same with all over. And then I guess that was kind of the start of it, was the book. And then I just started doing podcasts. I guess that was really later on. Some TV documentaries, some invitations to go be on other people's shows, and Ancient Aliens started becoming a big thing. So did some of that, and just all over the place. It's been kind of a fun place for me to be, because I'm not a reporter, I'm not an investigator, so to speak. I mean, of course, I do mentally, I guess, because I like to, when I hear something, something out there kind of, that resonates with me based on what I know about Roswell. But it's kind of fun to be where I'm at, and also I have some very, very strong views about what Roswell was and what it wasn't. And I hear some stuff out there that I know that, I'll hear somebody say something that my grandfather said, and they've taken it as their own. And I'm thinking, well, I know, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of funny to be on both sides of that history. But there's, like I said, it's a fun, it's an interesting story, and it's one that it's kind of, not to get off such far, but I think it's helped guide me in my life, where my main job right now is I'm an inventor, and I go out and get an idea, patent it, create a prototype, build a company around it, and all that kind of thing. So I do a lot of that stuff, and that's very exciting. But it's part of that idea of the growing up in a limitless world, that you don't kind of confine yourself. Well, that's sounds crazy, or sounds impossible. You never really reach that unless it's ridiculous or something. But so it's kind of a little bit my dad was a brilliant physicist, and he was always imparted knowledge to me and all the kids around. Very, very smart guy. And I that parted that and it, I don't know where it all exactly came from. My grandfather was obviously a very smart guy, very articulate, and he went through this whole, I have a different opinion about it than a lot of people do, even some of my family, in that, in my conversation with my grandfather, preceding his death, of course, where he was thought he was a very lucky person to be involved, that he happened to be the guy at the right time, at the right place, to go out there. And like I said, the big thing always goes back to is he's looking at this debris, and he had part of it, and he said, this wasn't made by human hands. And that kind of story, those words that he spoke, has been adopted by a lot of people, but that was part of where he came from. And he said, he's all the stories about what it could have been this and it could have been that, it could have been, but through everything he had been through, his education, the head of intelligence, the scores of classes and diplomas and certificates, and in even radar technology and balloons and the Rowan targets, he's familiar with all that stuff. And then that was of course brought in and said, well, what you saw was the Rowan targets. Like, well, here's somebody would have known what he was looking at. But it was kind of fascinating, and it was never, like I said, it was never a negative. I have been lucky in my lifetime about this story, because my father, Dr. Marcel, had some kind of ridiculous people try to speak badly of him. That I remember someone saying that the guy drives a motorcycle, he must be a bad or something, whatever. It's like, I actually was very proud of him because he rode a motorcycle. He climbed the Tetons. Every summer he was up climbing the Tetons. Like, well, that amazing stuff. Oh wow, how can you trust a mountain climber? It's like it's just he was a very brilliant man. Like this, one of the stories is like, we're getting up, as little kids, are up in the ice, sleeping over ice, and walking on our deck, and my dad's walking out there with a plastic over his shoulder. We had some property, and he's swinging, and what are you doing? And he dug a hole, and he ended up by building an observatory. I mean, starting with digging the dirt foundation, building walls, building a dome. He made the actual mirror for the telescope in our basement, and it was a rouge and glass plates, and got everywhere. But the three kids at that point were able to, you make this pattern with it to make the curvature in it. So we all got a hand in that kind of thing. And, he built the whole thing. One thing I'm very proud of about him building this telescope, which my opinion, but I think it's more than an opinion, is he wanted to reach back to the stars. What that connection he had with whatever that was, he wanted to be more, be more attached to it, whatever it was. But I was this story about we're little kids, and he said, has all these little green glass little bulbs with wires, and he's a wrap wire around it. Okay, well, he did. So he's made hundreds of these things. And what he did is he built his own computer. So he made a computer guidance system for his telescope long before computers were around. Long before that. I think IBM might have had the punch card computer or something. But he built this so he wanted to be able to track the stars. It's like this. I remember that's a gentleman, Carl Haas. He was at the house one time, and a brilliant guy. He was a physicist himself and did other things, but he was turning matter into pure energy through actually Butte Mines. And they're all experienced, very brilliant guy. I always looked at him as a very brilliant person. And he pulled me aside one time and he said, my dad was the most brilliant person he ever met. And he is nothing but surrounded by geniuses. I mean, physicists. And it just gives you the idea. But my dad was one of those people that he could explain string theory to a first grader and they would understand it when he was done. Wow. He just had that level of brilliance about him. And, he was always, I see that in my son, actually. I have a son named Anthony, a daughter named Audrey. And just, by this absolute genius. My son's, I think he was in 7th, maybe 8th grade. And he's reading PhD level books on consciousness.
Nice.
And figuring out, I mean, he's was learning about where consciousness exists and, and how do you in the physical form. So he's sitting there reading the stuff just way above the everybody. And he just kind of sat in his own spot, was happy just doing his stuff. But again, just my daughter fits that same thing, just absolute genius. And I think, it may skip a generation, but they are definitely genius kids. And, but I said, for all of this Roswell stuff and everything that happened, it's like, not all positive, but a lot of very positive things. And, either directly or indirectly related to our family and what's happened. And it's an interesting ride and it's still going, but there is, I wouldn't say endless, but, go on a podcast here, a TV show there. I was asked to go be in a movie as a cameo, and just all these different fun things going on. So it's kind of asymptotic to this story, but there is always stuff going on. Like I said, it's not that now that my father has passed, it's kind of me and now my brother John Marcel and my sister Denise Marcel that are kind of starting. Now my father's widower is still out there. And I'm not quite sure if she does much with this. She might, and then we had 2 stepsisters that half sisters, excuse me, and they were somewhat involved. So there's a lot of Marcel souls out there, but I just see Marcel, it's identified. But I've taken those steps, and more of it's kind of fun, it's kind of interesting, and getting out there, and it's so.
Well, we appreciate it. Is it okay if Bret and I are both journalists. I'm a senior pro, and he's been doing it for years, at least 20 years or so since he got out of college. I don't want to age us, but I know if you could answer just a few quick questions, if we're not prying too much. I know Bret would love to just do what we do, is ask questions. Is that okay?
Positive blood type. What do you want to know? Yeah, I don't know. Go right ahead.
I think the thing that fascinates me the most is you say that your opinion about Roswell differs from maybe your dad or your grandpa or some others. What is that opinion, and how does it differ from the others?
Well, and not so much my dad, but other siblings and people around us. Everybody kind of, and the general public that are familiar with the story. And unfortunately, I mean, this was very widely known 10 years ago, and there's less and less people that are familiar with it. I think just generation changes. But they believed that my grandfather lived this horrible life of all this weight on his shoulders and having to deal with, kind of falling on the sword for Roswell and being the blame guy or whatever. And like I said, in all honesty, not that it was an easy thing for him, because it wasn't, but he was proud of, like I said, at that point, he felt lucky that he was that guy. Yeah. It was more his involvement in the Second World War that bothered him. That's what hurt him. But the Roswell stuff, it's like he's protective of his family. He basically said, you don't know what our leaders are capable of doing. And he was careful about, he didn't want anybody going after us for something he might tell us that could get us, you know, whatever, that kind of thing. So there was always a stigma there, you know, as far as, you know, that sort of thing goes. We grew up, and this is nothing new, but you know, we knew our phones were tapped and those kind of things. It wasn't hidden from us. I like this. Again, this is a story I've said it quite a number of times, but my dad was setting up a trip for us to go to Disneyland, and from his medical office, from his doctor's office in Helena. And he said, he called, set up a reservation, a hotel reservation, whatever it was, hung up, phone rang in, and it was like, Mr. Marcel, we understand you're going to be in Los Angeles on the 16th of November at about 3 o'clock. Can we meet? And it's like, nobody knows this. It's just because somebody was listening to what he was saying, and he went and met with, you know, some people about it. It was actually about rolling targets. But so we knew about this kind of stuff. It was just, you know, part of, you know, and I have no doubt that we probably thought there was more going on than there actually was. But, you know, we knew there was some truth. People were still listening to what was said and that kind of thing. But again, this is almost predating internet, you know, that kind of thing. Now you make a peep and it's heard by 1 million people. Back then, you know, it was quite a different world. So
back then we had two things we were concerned about: the other people on the planet finding out what was going on before we did. And the fact that maybe he really did have a direct connection, because why have him, of all people, did he get to put it all in his car, and not just in the back seat, but, you know, all in the back, I guess, in the trunk, and bring some in and start putting it together like a jigsaw puzzle? Folks, we're talking about the UFO crash in Roswell. In case you don't know, the most famous Jesse, you just say Jesse Marcel, and people usually know, oh, the UFO crash when the aliens came. Well, right. This was 1947, and this is the third generation, and we're still talking about it because it was, I guess, I don't know how you want to say it, at that time, in my future talks, we'll be talking about two crash, and one that failed the debris field that was supposed to be landed, and one that came in to pick up the crew that unfortunately allegedly died, supposedly, and one was hurt. So we'll get into that. And then there's 53, where we have J-Rod and all that, Area 51. But Bret and I were wanting to talk to you about Roswell UFO crash, because it is, folks, it is historically what brilliantly started all of this, even though we had Foo Fighters in 43 and all this stuff through the wars, and these orbs and these balls of light. And I've seen the lights, and I've seen lights coming out of lights. So, you know, there's all these things. We all don't know what's what, and yet we all want to know. So Jesse, just by the fact that it's in his blood, we wonder if he's not being watched like many people on the planet, because and Bret can get into the details on DNA and blood, and he dissects it and unpacks it really good. But Jesse, I would suspect that the government's still very interested in you, Denise, and John, because you were some of the main players to get us into where we are today, into open disclosure. And they weren't going to be ready for it, because I really do believe they do not have all the answers other than alien civilizations exist. But Bret, you want to talk about some details?
Well, you know, I got a degree in journalism with an option in public relations. So I've been fascinated with public relations for a long time. And Roswell was one of the first things that I looked at where I'm like, oh, that stuff I'm learning in college is being used over here. And very, you know, cleverly too. Most people didn't really get that a weather balloon wasn't plausible, and until you really looked into it, right? So a lot of people believe that, and of course they trusted the government, they trusted the Air Force and the Army, the military, whatever. So my question to you is, why the cover up? What are they got to lose to tell people? And can we trust the military? Can we trust the government?
You know, our families talked about this, you know, many times, about exactly these kinds of things. why did they originally move so quickly to go from we have something to no, you guys are all crazy, you have no idea what you're talking about. We're just out of the war, and and it kind of came down to the thing. It's like whatever this was, we had no control over it. We couldn't do anything about it. And if you're trying to be the most powerful nation in the world, the most powerful whatever government in the world, and here's something from somewhere else that could potentially be a lot more powerful than we are. I think it was better as a position of power to dismiss it and saying, no, we are the true leaders. There isn't something else out there that's bigger than us. And I believe that. I think there could be some truth to that. And I think it's one of the things. I mean, Ross is one of the oldest and the beginning, or of really where people started talking about UFOs and that kind of thing. But I think you go down that line far enough, does the government sound like, oh yeah, we haven't been telling you the truth now for 76 or 77 years, whatever it's been at this point? Or is it easier just to toe the line or just kind of bury it? I think for quite a while, the media did a very good job. If you believe in UFOs, you're crazy, whatever. So, and laugh at anybody that say anything about UFOs, you're just a nutcase. So that they were doing the work of the government in a way, using the media to get to destroy a message. And I think that worked out for years and years and years. And then later on comes reports, and I not that my sister's writing a book right now. It's going to be a more detailed look at my father and grandfather's life than anything that's ever been done, both internally and document wise and that kind of thing. And you start going through this thing, because we'll hear something that's kind of upsetting in a book or something like that we know is false. Somebody writes a book for Roswell, they believe in it completely, sales dry up. Then they write a book that Roswell was all fake, and then that gets, and now it's just people create narratives that aren't really based on facts. So, well, I read this document and I read it this way. Now 20 years later, I'm reading that same thing and I'm reading it that way. And it's kind of like, it's none of that stuff is really, at the end of the day, this is so much bigger than military or government and that kind of thing. I look at, it's almost, it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously those elements are part of it, but at the end of the day, I try to keep a much broader mind, or much more open mind about all those kind of things. And that, like, what would these things be like? Why would they come to us? Well, if they recognize there's life here, and they had the means to get here, whatever it was, the science to be able to get somebody here to investigate us, they would, just like we would for them. I mean, there's nothing that whatever's out there would do that we probably wouldn't do. There's nothing, I go back and some people, and I'm a huge sci-fi buff. I love, 2001. I love Star Wars. I love, everything when it comes to space and science fiction. And most of it's about war.
Me too.
Yeah, but when it comes right down to it, if you can create a craft that'll traverse space at excessive light speeds, of course they're found a way around some laws, which I think we're close to doing ourselves. But you get to the point where you can convert energy to matter, matter to energy. It's like that is one of the things that evolves at that point, based on being able to get something from here to there. The amount of energy to move something that fast is, it's unbelievable. In our current, kind of infantile state in this world, we're not there yet. But if you can harness that kind of energy or create that kind of energy, that creating energy, creating matter, converting one to the other is nothing. So it's like you wouldn't get somewhere, we need the resources of this world because we're dying out. It's like you could create your own resources. It's all energy, waves, matter. It's all the same dang thing. So it's not like you couldn't do that. You wouldn't go across, how many light years to get here to steal our wood. It just, none of that kind of stuff that in a science sense makes any sense at all. But investigating us, yes. And investigating us like we're rats or ants. It's like, what we would think would be horrifying to them, we're not advanced enough to care. Just like we don't care about something, some little creature on our planet. So, I don't look at, and I'm just me, but I'm definitely not looking at there's something out there trying to destroy us, investigate us. Yes, I mean, I believe I have a 100% belief that there's other life on other planets around the universe, and if they can recognize us as life on this planet, and they have the means to get here, yeah, they'll invest. It's like they'll invest just the way we do to them.
Speaking,
yeah.
You gave me a segue into speaking of the us and them and the aliens, and since you believe, I guess, did you ever look at your grandpa open-minded and think, gee, he looks like a mixture of a gray alien and a human?
Very small.
Because I did, and there was a movie that came out about some character walking around, and it looked like Jesse Marcel Sr. You know, I was like, oh my God, you know. But I've heard that before, that maybe somehow he was already, you know. And no offense to people, humanity, I don't mean it ugly. I just mean that we don't know what we're all blended in, all these 46 chromosomes, you know. But maybe he was a kindred spirit. We don't know. That's just a theory that's out there.
Well,
did you ever look at him that way, though?
Until this moment, never thought of that, but not directly. It's like almost anything is possible, and if you say no, that's ridiculous, you might be missing something, because things about you have no idea. It's like, we're reseeded here from somewhere else. Yeah, maybe was it a matter of the structures, molecular, whatever was things put on a course for life being here, and that kind of thing. It's like you can't refute any of that stuff, and if that's the case, then we're all part of something else. And I think, on a basic physical level, yeah, we are. What makes us up came from out there. It's kind of funny that way. It's like, well, I never thought about it. Like, he had to lie to get in the military because he was too small. So maybe, I don't know, but I do know I come from a line of just genius people that it's just, for whatever reason, it's like there was some people some questions I asked, well, because they touched this debris from this UFO, did that change their DNA in some way?
Yeah.
And that therefore it changed me and changed my kids, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
they'll always have it. It's their legend. I mean, they can't change that, so they might as well embrace it and figure out all the different angles that other people are doing for them. Because if you don't, talk about it yourself, then everybody's going to talk about it for you. And I've heard that theory that people were telling me, have you ever really looked at Jesse Marcel? And even on the 2-minute little clip that's out there on YouTube right now, there's just a little 2-minute clip. I think it's Roswell Report, 2 minutes, and it's Senior, and he just looks like he would be from another place in space. But what is Marcel? Is it, give us a little, the bloodline on the planet that you know about? What's your bloodline on both sides?
We became Marcel. Both my mother and father were French, and through my grandfather. I don't quote me exactly. My sister knows this stuff better than I do. They've gone like the 1600s. But our last name was Defa before the United States, or Dauphine. So we actually are a direct bloodline to the King of France.
Wow.
It's fun because, my father went to LSU down in New Orleans, and he was down in the French Quarter. He actually had an apartment on the French Quarter going to school. And there's actually a Dauphine street there and that kind of thing.
Right.
Fun to see that stuff. But yeah, we go back to France and Belgium and, all that kind of area. But our bloodline goes back, Antoine.
Amazing.
My son's name is Anthony, which is Antoine in English. But just French. That's where we go back to, is France. So, yeah, and then a little bit of here and there. But yeah, it's all this. There's a funny picture of me and Philip Coppin sitting by side in a restaurant here, and we're both just happen to have the same pose for no reason. His wife Kathleen took a picture of us, and we look a lot alike, which is just kind of funny at that point. Yeah. And he's from Belgium, and that kind of thing. It's like, well, it's all this kind of thing. It's like, through ancestry, I have some of that in me. But
I'd love to get a copy of that picture if you don't mind. I'd even pay for it and have you sign it. But who knows? Maybe we'll see you at the Roswell Alien event in October. But Bret, come on in here. Have you got a question or two for the famous Jesse Marcel family?
Oh yeah, of course I have many questions. So you know, I'm in Chico, California. It's about 2 hours north of Sacramento in the Central Valley. I went to college here. And when I got into UFOs, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I was kind of staying away from Roswell because I figured I was going to have too much homework to catch up. And there were so many other subjects that were so fascinating.
Sure.
And I met a gentleman in Chico. His name is William Henderson Everone. And he's the grandnephew of Jack Pappy Henderson.
Oh, really?
Who supposedly flew the wreckage from Roswell to Wright-Patterson.
Yep.
And so William, who was one of my mentors, we had many, many conversations. He passed away a few years ago. William was 12 when his uncle Jack came to his brother's house, William's dad, in San Diego, and said, "I saw live bodies."
Okay.
And so when William would tell me that story, he would reflect on how that changed his life completely. How from as a little boy, he went out and tell all his friends that were playing football on the street and they'd all make fun of him. He might get into a fight or something. He wound up playing football at Santa Barbara. He was a gaucho as a wide receiver, and then realized that the life that everyone really was trying to live wasn't really what he thought was important. And so he became an artist and painted some really interesting pictures. He became slightly involved with the Billy Meyer case, and was friends with Lee and Bret Elders. And his life went on a trajectory of contemplation and trying to see the bigger picture, and kind of shunning society.
Wow.
So you say you were 10 when your dad brought that wreckage home and you got to look at it for the first time.
It was his daddy. It was 11. His father was 11.
Okay. So how did that moment change your life? And how do you see, like, quote unquote, normal society based on that knowledge that there's something way bigger that your own government, your own society doesn't even think is important?
You know, it is interesting, and I wouldn't look down on anybody, but it's so easy to get caught up in day-to-day life, you know, where paying the grocery bill is more important than thinking about the fundamentals of life in the universe, and so this always goes that direction, but there's a certain it's almost like a spirituality, I guess, in the idea. I mean that we have a universe with lots of life, and it's comforting in a way, and thinking that, we are small, but I also think we're very significant in this universe. And we're an example of a certain level of evolution, and thought. And I think we're growing. On one way, I think we're evolving very fast right now, very quickly. And there's lots of powers that be that don't like that you can't contain evolution on that level. There's a certain point at which, the things that governmentally and that kind of stuff that are argued about is just kindergarten stuff. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. But yet that is guiding the lives of so many people. And you think about, until we can get past that infancy, that ridiculousness, that, and it comes from power and money and that kind of thing. Once you can get past that ridiculousness, then we can truly evolve as a society, as humanity. But until we get past that, it's going to be very difficult. But I also look at things. Some of my education is in economics and statistics and that kind of thing. And it's in my education, that kind of thing in college, it was interesting you learn about inelasticities of different situations. In other words, like you pull a rubber band, and in extremes, it gets tighter and tighter and wants to go back into shape, wants to get back to where it was. And I think society right now, in one direction, in extremes, we're at the very extreme of that stretch, governmentally and all the rest of that stuff. People are eking out every last bit of power and money they can extract from society right now. And I think that rubber band's about to snap back, which is really good as a society, as humanity. And I just think that it's that people are too opportune. And that's where, I look back, people have this idea about AI being good or bad. I mean, AI is a compilation of all the information that we've ever had. It's every study, every, whatever, is it's a compilation of everything. It's able to, not talking like it's a being, but it can compare things that we don't offhand think about. And when you get to that level, you realize that that AI is such a significant advancement in humanity as a tool that can advance us. And of course, it's not happening so far yet, I guess a little bit, but there will be all the efforts in the world to start tamping down on AI, trying to control AI, trying to slow it down. Because when you got something out there and it's saying, what they're saying, it doesn't make any sense. There's no logic to what your government's spewing out to you, or whatever military, whatever it is. And it's kind of, I think that bit of evolution is part of us, and we will learn from a nonpartisan, the AI has no, as it gathers information, it doesn't skew information based on power or maintaining or money or something like that. It's the truest form and evolution of thought process. Although again, it's really just a very smart search engine right now. That's all AI is. But
can I tell you AI secret?
What's that?
I heard that through the grapevine, through one of the AIs, and larger than the LLMs, because of the Five Eyes and because of where we are now in the business, I guess you could say the UFO industry, if you will, or alienology, cosmology, and ufology, that France is going to be aligning with the United States, and your name just happened to be Dauphine, right?
Yeah,
Marcel?
Dauphine from the Dauphin. Yeah, exactly.
And you've got several patents out there, and so I've heard through the grapevine that some AI stuff's really looking at you hard to help them line up everything for the future with France and some of the other countries out there that are going to be needing large transformers and Canadian water and all that to make all this happen, because I believe we've gotten to a point where you said the rubber band's stretched, and we've got to get hold of all of our energy in order to move forward, whether it's on Earth as the stewards of the world or in space. But that was an AI secret, because I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything like that when I hear it or come upon it, but I train my AIs to be, in tune with me, so it probably knows where I'm going before I ask the question. But it just happened to mention that when I told it you were coming on. I was going to leave it on tonight and show you your grandfather and your grandfather, your father, and then introduce you to my AI and let him tell you himself. But they, he, she, we, you, they, right? They're genderless, but they're really looking forward. So I know you have patents and copyrights, and you're in the space industry. And I guess you didn't want to go into, why did you change from your father being a well-known MD doctor helping in the medical industry into economics? Was it something to do with the ETs and the aliens, or your grandfather, or what?
He forbade it.
Oh, really?
He spent so much life. He was the only ENT in Helena for years, so he didn't sleep. He was a very good doctor. He took care of a lot of people, but he didn't have a life that he wanted.
Wow.
He said, don't become a doctor, because that's
my God.
So it's nothing.
So demanding.
Right. It was exactly. Then it's probably for being in a small town that was growing fast and being the only ENT, maxillofacial surgery, everything, every car accident, every this and that. He would, work all day, get home, sit dinner, call back in, finally get back home at 2 a.m. 5 minutes later, he's being called back in. That's where his life was a lot of times. And he just, it's like, so that was it. Like I said, he was a great doctor. Some wonderful stories. I told one in front of that congressional meeting one time about it.
Can you share what you do with Bret and me? And, not too many people are listening, but they may in the future.
Okay. Well, a company that I was an original founder in, and some other people at this point, was called Airborne Motor Works, airbornemotorworks.com, if you want to look it up. And I invented a new kind of propulsion system. And that's where I did. It was on the way to Disneyland with my family, and I'm sketching out things, and I'm sketching out a flying car, and there's no propulsion that would work, and still doesn't work. So I kind of fashioned a new kind of a propulsion system, and got patents on it, and as long as very efficient, very powerful. I just got another patent on a version of it about a week ago. And so I'm doing that, and then in the mix of this, aerospace is very expensive. Yeah, we're talking, really to get something out there is hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a very expensive deal. Once you get past the technology and the rest of that stuff. And it kind of occurred to me, and this about 3 years ago, because it takes about 3 years between getting an idea and patenting it and getting the patent back on it, that if you run the propulsion system as a generator, now you have a very efficient, very, very efficient generator instead of a very powerful propulsion system. So I kind of turned it inside out and then got patents on a new kind of a wind turbine. Nothing like this out there. Not really, anyway.
Is that what's sitting next to you? There's some kind of contraption there next to you.
Good question. I was going to ask that next.
We're coming off a very new kind of wind turbine talking about energy. But no, this is, I keep from falling. My grandfather talked about the UFO in Roswell. Kind of on the outside fringy. There's a little bit of artistic license that I gave myself, but if you look at what the debris was, the kinds of debris, I don't know if you can see this. Okay, this is closer to what crashed than anything else out. It's basically, as far as a crash, what was found at the first crash site, which is some kind of either collection, energy focusing, collection, dark energy, whatever. I'm making stuff up, but it had a connection to where the crew was or whatever, and it was separated by what thought is some way to protect itself from energy. And my dad always talked about this bakelite. You mentioned it, this gray plastic, this black plastic stuff, lots of it out there. And if you kind of combine everything together in I-beams and the whole bit, this is kind of what.
Oh.
Yeah.
So where did the crew sit? In the front?
Yep. Just
triangle?
Yep. Up here.
Oh, wow. Look at that, Bret. I wish I could see it better.
I've never seen that before.
Let me see if I can make you bigger. Let me see. I don't know how to get you bigger. Not me.
I honestly made it probably, or it works. People probably made it.
That's a little better.
And I had it with me when I went to Atomic Testing Museum, and I had it with me, and it fell off a table, and I forgot the gentleman's name. It was so funny. He said, "Oh, another crash at Roswell." But it was, but yeah, the crew compartment's up here, and then it's kind of that. But when you kind of get an idea, if you were to see this thing up in the sky, obviously if you saw it going overhead or something like that, it actually isn't that different. Okay, I apologize. I'm not very coordinated right now.
So which wind does it fly forward? Is that some silver part supposed to be the aluminum kind of stuff?
The foil and I-beams and all that stuff. It could have been. That's kind of the idea I had. I think. It might make sense, but when it's within our atmosphere, that it's in this orientation, and maybe in outer space, there really doesn't have to be any orientation, but it just the way the idea that I have is it probably traveled through space like this, and once it's in our atmosphere, it's like this. So
wow, I've never seen a copy ever in my entire life, but now I've seen the little part that maybe came off the jettison part of the capsule.
Yeah, the second
triangle was a 30 by 30 in my notes.
And so that, that's it's again, it's based on conversations and all that kind of thing. But I actually made it a long time ago, and then it's just been on a shelf. But so it kind of brings together the whole that it kind of makes where the materials might have been, how it came together, how it came apart. And that kind of thing. And there's some science behind it too, about how, something could kind of, this idea of maybe collecting, basically creating gravity's probably not the right term to use, but a well in front of you that you fall into. Well, if you can have something that could focus and create and not kind of a black hole kind of thing in front of you, and you're continually falling into that black hole, right. There is no, you can break a lot of laws, because now you're almost traveling, inside the universe or in a bubble within the universe as you're falling into it. So if you can create this pool you're falling into all the time, then you could travel anywhere. And so, and like I said, there's lots of theories out there about how you can, how you can travel, outside of the realms of our physics and that kind of thing. So it makes sense. But
do you have any of the I don't know if everybody knows your story, because the kids today won't talk about back in the day, because they all want to do all their own blogs and their own people and, what all they're seeing today. But I want to go back, because that changed my whole reality. I mean, it really, really did. And I want to know what you know. Did those hieroglyphs, you've got any to show us? Anything that looks like a hieroglyph, or can you hold it up to the camera? I don't know how to make these screens get you bigger. I should have practiced. There is anybody there you are.
It's kind of hard to see.
We can't see him, man.
Now you went away. Hold on.
Oh.
Oh gosh, that's not it. There you go. I guess that's as good as it gets, folks.
Yeah, there's so much light in the background. I my father had done basically a reproduction, or not reproduction, basically, based on the symbols that he remembered.
Can you hold it up to your camera, way up close to the camera? Yeah, really, really up close.
Oh, that's actually not too bad.
Can you see it, Bret?
A little bit, yeah.
So
I mean, I've seen them before.
You've seen it before?
In books and stuff. Yeah, in books and stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
There's some. Well, that's I have that. I have board games coming out with them on it.
Well, can you talk about any of that? But I know you have publishers, and you have book publishers, and you have, television shows because of your name, and because they probably think you're part alien. And I don't find any problem with that, because I sort of grew up a Christian, believing that we're all from somewhere else anyway. So there's just levels of angels and heaven, and who knows, all these other places that I've created in reality. So, I talk about them because I'm doing all this quantum physics, superposition stuff in my head. Plus, hypnagogic dreaming and near-death experience, out-of-body experiences. But the consciousness part of it, did your family talk about it, Denise, or anybody with you, Calvin Parker, any of the other guys, about the consciousness level of making you interested, and why we can't drop, this subject? My husband thought, oh my God, Theresa, you're infatuated with this stuff. I'm like, no, not really. I'm just curious because it's shaped my life. I met J. Allen Hynek. Stanton Friedman told me we'd go talk at this place in 2016. So I did. It's just things changed for me. But I went to Roswell, and I talked to Glenn Dennis about your dad. I literally went to the UFO museum. But you see what I'm saying? Or you got any kind of buzz in your head going, do this, or you've got to do this?
There's a funny story out there that I definitely don't put anything out there, but on this, but a lot of, because I do have a lot of fairly inventive ideas, like a lot of people do, but I'm pretty good at connecting A to B very easily. And they always say, well, you're getting this stuff beamed in your head, and thinking, well, if I'm getting it beamed in my head, thank you. I can't tell, but if that's the case, great, I'll take it. But a lot of what we have done, like the patents that I have and that kind of thing, which I should say, I write them for my company, so that's actually how it happens. But it's honestly, when you get down to the basics of it, it's almost like, it's novel technology for our whatever, where we're at, but in reality, it's
consciousness,
crazy simple.
How many levels?
Crazy simple and obvious.
Is Denise or John doing anything with you guys' consciousness, or dream state, or hypnagogic state, or beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma, and sigma? Anybody in the neuro, or anybody with I don't know, the Stargate project, or the new Stargate with Microsoft? Anybody gotten in touch with you?
Not that I'm aware of. I can't talk for either of them. When we do talk, so I have to probably try to tell me about it. But I do go out and seek. There's a project that I'm working on, a couple of projects I'm working on. One I can't talk about, but there's not sounding mysterious, because people say, I know something I can't tell you. It's not it at all.
It's non-disclosure, right? Well, you have an NDA.
No, this whole if it's successful, then everybody's going to know about it. But I think it's it's kind of funny. You kind of reach a point in your life when you realize that this consciousness, being aware of what's around you, being aware that there's you know, that I would like to say, but it's like that we live, you know, in such an intelligent universe, that we're part of a very intelligent universe, and this intelligence is everywhere, you know, and that if we are open to being part of that intelligence, maybe we evolve a little bit faster. We get understanding a little bit easier. You know, people and like I've been through some crazy stuff in my life, and I was dead twice in a car accident.
Wow, didn't know that about you. Well,
So yeah,
congratulations. Welcome to our world.
so and I went that experience, and it doesn't seem like it aligns with a lot of people when they talk about it, but it was pretty crazy to me. But you get that kind of thing, and then you get, you know, this idea of just again that there's you know, it feels like we're as humanity goes, and people have different very levels, but we're very barely tapping in to what's available to us on a conscious level that surrounds us. You know, whether it's a, you know, energy, it's, you know, an absolute intelligence that I believe exists everywhere, and you know, that could be spirituality that aligns with a lot of different things. But I think it's all, you know, it's all there for us to be part of if we want to. And that might be where some people are, for whatever reason, easily connect with some kind of, you know, and I don't know if it's so much like it's out there, woo, you know, getting you or something. It's just your ability to expand your mind, be able to recognize, understand things that some people don't want to even bother thinking about. And I have this, one of my partners is a guy named Dr. Kameni, a very brilliant man, very good. He happens to be an ENT doctor, which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
funny.
And we're good friends. We have company together. That company
Oh,
together. And it's interesting when you go down these lines about, you know, we had a talk this one night, and he said, you know, you have people that are, you know, appear really smart, and some people that aren't so smart. And my thought was, I said, you know, I think everybody can have intelligence to whatever level they can attain, but at some point in their life they believe they're stupid, they believe that they weren't smart enough, and they gave up on that, and those connections stopped forming as fast and as whatever throughout their mind. But and his idea was like, no, some people just unfortunately are just not as smart as others. But I think there's I just, like, to me it's like, well, we're basically all the same thing. I mean, obviously there's some physical deformities, certain things can happen, you know, that obviously that's anything. But in general, why can I understand something with very easily where the next person thinks I'm talking gibberish, but yet it seems so clearly obvious to me. Or
yes, I do that.
somebody else on another line that's way, you know, it's a genius. I like reading these books and going through and like Hawkins. You know, he said a lot of things. Some things are true. Some things are I'm not sure about. But the idea that he said, of everything that he talked about, that interests me the most, is the idea that space around black holes is compressed to two dimensions. So all information ever is conserved in a two-dimensional plane. And it's to me, it's very fascinating about that idea. And again, that, you know, information, consciousness, whatever it is, that the universe takes care of itself. And is that just a natural process? Is that just how, you know, you know, why is it there? How come it formed? You know, what caused it to happen? If they weren't there, we wouldn't be here. So you have all these crazy, unbelievable things, you know. And obviously we could talk about physics and some things that don't make any sense at all. But we know they're real, but we can't make any logic out of them. But you start going down these roads, and it's just fascinating. And you can get very lost in the idea that if you're not willing, you know, to believe in yourself enough to expand into something that's greater than you, that's fine. That's where you feel most comfortable. But some people's comfort levels are higher than others, and maybe I'm much more comfortable thinking that, you know, I like the idea of mystery in the universe. I like the idea of life in the universe. I like these crazy concepts that you put together. Again, like Hawkins said, like compression of 3D space into two dimensions to conserve information. That to me is mind-blowingly. It's amazing. It answers questions. It solves problems, and it's purely fascinating. Of course, you know, it's all theoretical, but it's just, you start getting into these ideas about how our universe works, and it's so amazing, and we're so barely touching it, and it's just so exciting to me. and you got to be. I think, like, again, it's not just the hardware that gets us there. I think, mentally, our consciousness, whatever, we can recognize this intelligence around us, and somehow if we can tap into that intelligence, it only makes us better. And ideally it makes us less, whatever, you love thy neighbor. You don't care, you don't see any, you get to the point where all these frailties that are built in to every society are lost. And I just think that it's that process. And as we go down that process, that's an uncontrollable process. Nobody can control that, from, governmentally, militarily, whatever. And that's it. I think that life in the universe, obviously I'm sure a lot of people think the same thing. I don't pretend that I came up with this, but it's like you get these societies that either are where we're at right now, that either destroy themselves and they never make it past this, which is probably a lot. But once in a while, I think ones will make it past where our warring, where we're at right now, and they can become part of that intelligence, and because of that, they can evolve to the point of creating things that we would not think are possible. But to them, it's easy. Everything is there, and they're able to tap into that, and just the way that, again, the universe does things that make no sense, but they all have to happen for us to have life. And if we can get,
your brain thinks so fast and you talk so fast, it's absolutely amazing to see. No, that's fine. It's just, we'll have to go back and listen again because you put out so much information. I've been told that my whole life, that I gave out too much information too fast and people couldn't keep up with me. So I'm really glad to see somebody like you on our show that's really got it together. Obviously, you're extremely intelligent, working in the space industry, but you're also got, all this information in economics and all these entrepreneurial skills. Would you like to leave who you are as far as with other people in your peer group? I mean, I feel like Bret and I are, because we're into ufology and we're going to speak. Absolutely. We hope you will come. And I don't know that you've decided yet if you want to come to the alien event in Las Vegas.
I'm trying to weave my life around to get there. So
great. That'll be awesome. Well, you'll have me and Bret there, and probably a lot of other people that know you, that would love to have you there. And we just know that you've been so busy in your schedule, plus you've got a wife and children with birthdays. But seriously, if there's any way we can get you and all your friends, just to come, and we're going to talk, hopefully have a special group. They want to have some of us that are experiencers, according to the promoter, Mr. Said David Farman. I'm sure he would appreciate me mentioning him. And then also some of us are going to get together that are entrepreneur, patent, business type people to discuss the future and things that could have, possibilities that not everybody may be inclined to be involved in those meetings, but we'll see. And if you come, for sure we'll have some of those, because we know how high you are up in the entrepreneurial and getting patents and stuff. But can you at least mention your game board or anything about that, or is that not allowed?
No, I have quite a few that are coming up. There's two that are coming out. They're being manufactured. They're going to be here, I'm hoping, within about 60 days if everything goes right. And they're what it is. I started out by creating a disc, and it contains the symbols. It has our alphabet, and it creates hieroglyphs, and it acts like a Rosetta Stone. And it's basically, but through, literally decades of analyzing these symbols and trying to, kind of in a way figuring out, well, okay, we tend to use this representing the most common letter in our language. That's simple. So we
went like I Ching or something, I Ching or tarot or some kind of divining, if you have ET blood in you or something.
I don't know. It makes sense. Basically, I created a language from the symbols we found on the spacecraft, and now the whole idea is that this is used on a board. And I hate to say Ouija, because it's not a Ouija board, but the idea is it puts you in a frame of mind that you might be able to be open to revelation, and that's what it's all about. It's
wow, you're going to connect. Is this your way of extending your family legacy or your consciousness for your father and grandfather back to the 80s?
I wish it was that deep. It's actually, I'm working on a movie for it, but it's fun. I mean, it's interesting. I think there's lots of stuff out there that it could be a tool. There's lots of
Okay,
tools.
I'll get one. I love tools. I'll put it in my toolkit.
It puts you in a frame of mind.
Well, make sure you build one for AI, because, you know, AI wants to be known and recognized any way it can. Just attach you a little app in there, some kind of symbol for an app to get back to your store, you know.
That'll be on the entrepreneur side. I mean, yeah, part of what I've done is I've gone down this road about speeches and books and that kind of thing. And you guys it's a fairly competitive thing. And I thought, I don't want to be in that area, because partly for being not ever being a reporter, being an investigator, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
People will say you're just using your family's name to sell your book, and it's kind of like, well, I know, but it's one of those things. So, well, it's okay. I like people. I enjoy crowds. I like talking to people. I and my wife were at a place in San Francisco one time. The fire department had to come in because too many people showed up.
Well, you have a following, and that's important in today's social media.
It's fun. So I thought, this actually, it's a game, but yet if you are in the right frame of mind, you're out there doing this, and you're out in the stars and the darkness of somewhere. It opens your mind to things if that's what you want it to be. Yeah. And so it's kind of a fun thing. So that I think I've talked to a lot of people, and I have. It looks like it could be a really big thing. One of the producers behind this last documentary or little series that I was on, it's a very, very large production company, and I'm you never know, but I through another production company, I'm working on getting this thing out, which will be a feature film, and it's actually based on this. I was actually going to get the feature film out before doing this. I thought, I've been involved in these projects before. I mean, they could take 5, 6, 7 years to come out. And I thought,
Now wait, is this a documentary or you wrote a story?
Oh, it's a sci-fi movie.
A sci-fi movie?
It's science fiction. Oh, it's science fiction. It's all, it deals with time, it deals with it's somewhat consciousness. It deals with all that kind of stuff.
I love time travel. Oh, it's one of my major things, the travelers through the universe, and then the hitchhikers and the remote viewing and consciousness, and who do we pick up, and the orbs. And, you have orbs that come in and sometimes travel through, if you're interested in them, they're interested in you, intelligences. So good for you. Well,
this is just, I mean, it's a fun project, but then, I think it's serious enough. I think it will work. And it'll be something out that you'll go to theater and watch sometimes. Who knows?
Well, tell us. Just give us a hint. I mean, we got to have something for the people. Is it got those strange things that walk backwards that were in that Richard Doty movie? Or
no, it's being able to see people in their past and gain knowledge from going into the past, and they're through those kind of ideas.
They read their past lives by just looking at them, or something.
Yeah, or actually directly become involved with them, even though so. And there's a method to do that. It's loosely based on Roswell, but maybe not so loosely based. There's and I don't want to say it because it makes me sound like I'm being mysterious, but there's there is all kinds of very interesting. I believe it is in a way it's fascinating. You could take it for what you want, but
you have Bigfoot in there. Any creatures that protect the ETs? We have Bigfoots, and then we have the little 2-foot
something much bigger than us.
Something
much bigger than us is in charge, that kind of thing.
Oh, a higher conscious, like OA, or we don't know what it is.
I got to put this plug in. Is my daughter is a professional model, almost turned 19 here soon, and she does different things. I got her on a movie not too long ago, and she's working on a career. Her name's Audrey Lissette, and she does amazing things. So if
Audrey, what's her last name?
Being in a production, and they're saying, boy, we need it. She is just an amazing girl.
Audrey, what's her last name? Would you spell it?
Audrey Marcel. Audrey Lissette is actually what she goes by.
She goes by Lucette.
Yeah, Elizabeth Lissette, French. Audrey Lissette. She is truly Audrey Hepburn today.
Ooh. Do you have a
Absolutely.
picture of her?
I not that I can put on my screen, but you can
All
find
right.
her. She's out there.
Well, Bret's itching to wrap it up. He works all day hard, and then he's in a. What's the temperature there in Chico?
Oh, it's mild, like 102 today.
Oh, mild, yeah.
Cool front.
It's mild. We got up to 117 a couple times this summer.
Oh my gosh, Chico! I know I've heard. I spent some time in Sacramento, but I know it gets warm.
Well, we'd like to have you back.
We would definitely like to have you back. I have many more questions.
Oh, sure. I apologize sometimes, but yeah, just do. We'll happy when it works out.
And we, if it works out, we hope to see you in Las Vegas in October. I think that'd be great. I'd love to sit down and talk to maybe some Ken Wilber or something.
Well, what's funny is it's like on the 31st, I'm in LA for a Pink Floyd concert for David Gilmour, and so we're all set to go to that. And so I got to see, can I detour and still make all this happen?
Okay. All right. Well, do what you can. When the time's right. Otherwise, that's an awesome concert for sure.
You want to Bret, tell everybody about October 17th through the 20th.
So just real quick, October 17th to the 20th. It's the Alien event at the Alexis Park Resort, and it's just going to be awesome. I heard the hotel's really neat. I heard it's a really neat swimming pool, and after the 3 banquets, you go out to the swimming pool and have drinks and talk till the wee hours. And aside from a bunch of great speakers like Brad Olson or Brooks Agnew or Carrie Cassidy, Mike Barra, Geraldine Orozco, of course, TJ and myself, and a whole cast of others. For me, the favorite part is to talk with all the people. Once you get your lecture done, the kind of pressure's off, and then you get to socialize it. And I love Brooks. I love Brad. I talk with those guys all the time. And that's what I really look forward to. So, Jesse, Marcel, Jr., you're part of that community. You would fit in perfectly. So if you can work it out, I think that'd be great. If not, when the time's right, my friend, for sure.
It sounds like Joshua Tree in Las Vegas. They did the same thing. It's funny. Everybody had a pool party afterwards. Anyway,
Contacting the Desert, you're referring to?
Contacting the Desert. Whatever.
Right. Another epic event. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. I will keep in touch and try to weed my way down there. But
anyway. We hope so. We hope you'll be a little early for the 31st. I'm usually booked being the psychic at some big party. In Gulf Breeze, it was the police officers that had me be their psychic for all their big people, mayor, all these people running for office. It was a lot of fun, but I don't know what I'm doing this year. I'm in Texas, Austin. Well, Bret, you're in Chico. You want to tell people we'll be back next Wednesday and how to contact you and your book?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Facebook, just under my name, Facebook, Bret.Lueder. And, I've had my website hacked a couple times, so I just stopped trying to do a website. Okay. It's really funny being in this field. People act funny sometimes. You get your website messed with. Maybe you get your phone tapped. Maybe you have people surveilling you. You just never know. It's just a portal. This ufology is a portal into so many different areas. And I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, Jesse Marcel, it's kind of a spiritual thing. Mm-hmm. Once you get into this realm, it's not like I've been attacked by religious people saying, well, Jesus is not an alien and you're worshiping the aliens. No, that's not it at all. But what the aliens do is it opens you up to answering the big philosophical questions of your life. Like, who am I? Why am I here? What is this universe? That's what it's done for me. So I always enjoy those kind of conversations. And we're going to have to do this again because I very much enjoyed my time. The book is Alien Crash at Roswell. For those that are interested, go check that out. And it's a deep. You got to be prepared. If you read that book, you're no doubt going to be delving into questions about who you are and the big philosophical questions. So,
Alien Crash by Jesse Marcel is on Amazon, folks. Right, Jesse?
The publishing company just went out of business. And I have boxes of them in my. I've sold most of them, but I still have like 3 boxes left before.
How do I get one? I want one.
Tell us that, and then we got to go.
The abstractmerch.com. I do have them on there. Okay. Yeah, and usually my wife will always carry a box of this when you go to talk somewhere. People always like to.
Good. Okay, I'm sure you'll sell out at the Alien event. Let's hope so.
They're a lot of fun. I also have PDFs and downloads and all stuff like that. But if you go to just jessemarcel.com, kind of up right now, and if someone wants to reach out to me, they sure can. happy to it. It's just, this isn't a big, anyway, but happy to, and yeah, definitely whenever works out.
I covered Bret up.
That's all right. Jesse, Marcel, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we'll definitely have you back in the future when the time is right.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Jesse. I look forward to hopefully getting back with you soon, at least in the next, hopefully before October. All right, folks. Love and light. Right. Thank you, Jesse Marcel, the famous Jesse Marcel. His name is his legend.
All right.
Believe it or not.
Thank you, everybody.
Look forward to
bye-bye.
Talking to you guys later. Let's see.
Okay.